Hello there and welcome to The World Today on CGTN. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing. We begin with the wrangling between the US and South Korea over the costs for the deployment of the US missile defense system THAAD. South Korea's defense ministry says there will be no renegotiation. The ministry's blunt stance comes in response to US President Donald Trump. In an interview on Thursday, he said he wants Seoul to shoulder the estimated $1 billion cost. South Korean officials say their bilateral agreement assigns the expense to Washington. South Korea also said on Sunday that Trump's national security advisor reaffirmed the initial deal that Seoul will only provide land for the deployment. Now, for more on this, we're now joined from Seoul by our correspondent Shane Ham. Hello there, Shane. How do you think this row may affect the alliance?
Well, as far as the president's comments, President Trump's comments, it really took officials here off guard, and they were really rattled by this. But the Defense Ministry coming out today, making it very clear that the cost of deploying this THAAD system falls in the hands of the United States military, because it's dictated under what's called the Status of Forces Agreement, or SOFA, between the countries. That dictates how U.S. forces Korea here are deployed on the Korean Peninsula. And the ministry went on to say that it'd be impossible to revive this deployment of THAAD without amending SOFA in and of itself. And under this agreement, the U.S. would pay for the operation and the maintenance of this deployment, of this THAAD system, and the Republic of Korea would provide the land. And also in comments or phone conversations yesterday between the national security advisors of South Korea and the United States, H.R. McMaster, McMaster had told Kim Kwan-jin, the South Korean security chief, that the president's comments, Trump's comments, were in general context in line with the U.S. public's expectations on burden sharing with its allies. And this issue of cost sharing between the United States and the Republic of Korea came into the limelight, in fact, during the U.S. presidential campaign, when President Trump, when he was a nominee at the time, had suggested that South Korea and even Japan pay their fair share of deploying U.S. forces to protect this region here. Now, the current 5-year deal between Seoul and Washington expires next year. At present, Seoul pays about $800 million to the United States for USFK deployment here, but it'll be interesting to see how this affects the two allies' relationships moving forward.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Shane Ham reporting from Seoul. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump says he's willing to make concessions on trade with China if Beijing can get Pyongyang to back off its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Trump talked about his evolving approach to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea during an in-depth TV interview. But as CGTN White House correspondent Jessica Stone reports, he also raised questions about how his words will be interpreted by the DPRK leader.
I would not be happy. If he does a nuclear test, I will not be happy. And I can tell you also, I don't believe that the president of China, who is a very respected man, will be happy either.
Not happy mean military action?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
In this interview over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump offered an uncharacteristic compliment to DPRK leader Kim Jong-un.
And at a very young age, he was able to assume power. A lot of people, I'm sure, tried to take that power away, whether it was his uncle or anybody else. And he was able to do it. So obviously, he's a pretty smart cookie.
Now 101 days on the job, Trump is making resolving the nuclear crisis on the Korean Peninsula a major foreign policy test. Trump and his national security advisor refusing to take military options off the table.
So you need the viable option, the military option, to help make what you're doing diplomatically, economically, with sanctions, viable, to be able to resolve this problem short of what would be, as the president said, a major, major war.
Beijing wants to coax the parties back to negotiations through economic pressure. Discussions are underway at the United Nations for additional sanctions against Pyongyang. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi continues to encourage the U.S. to end its military exercises in the region. Meantime, Trump said he is now certain China is not manipulating its currency, a reversal of his campaign rhetoric, and said he is willing to make trade concessions to Beijing if China can help broker a resolution to Korean Peninsula tensions.
Trade is very important. But massive warfare with millions, potentially millions of people being killed, that, as we would say, trumps trade.
What Beijing would really like to see compromise on is this: the installation of an anti-missile defense system in the Republic of Korea. Over the weekend, South Koreans clashed with police near the installation site. U.S. defense officials say its first battery should be operational, quote, very soon. But on the question of who is paying for the $1 billion installation, Trump has pointed to Seoul. Sunday, his national security advisor appeared to contradict him.
The question of what is the relationship on THAAD, on our defense relationship going forward, will be renegotiated, as it's going to be with all of our allies.
With all the mixed messages seeming to come from Washington on its DPRK policy, you can see why U.S. allies and partners in Asia might be confused. One frequent critic of U.S. President Donald Trump, Senator John McCain, says watch his words, not his actions. But with uncertainty coming from both Pyongyang and Washington now, the real question is, which is Kim Jong-un watching? Jessica Stone, CGTN, Washington.
Meanwhile, the United States and South Korea have finished their annual Fall Eagle military exercises. The largest ever two-month drill involved some 300,000 South Korean soldiers and 10,000 U.S. troops. Meanwhile, another joint drill involving the South Korean Navy and U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Carl Vinson and the Columbus nuclear-powered submarine have started in waters off the Korean Peninsula. And according to media reports, the drill may last till this week. The focus is on detecting, tracking and also intercepting ballistic missiles. And the joint drill by the US, Japan, Britain and France is also scheduled to take place off Japan's coast and around waters of the Northern Mariana Islands between May the 3rd and May the 22nd. And the DPRK has accused Washington of igniting a nuclear war. It has threatened to strike America to the last man if there's any hint of an attack on its territory.